I just burnt myself on this pole. Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube. My name is Yannah Jones, aka Bernelli Designs, and today I'm going to be answering some questions for a Q&A. I've been recently getting a lot of questions on my DMs, on my TikTok, and all my social media platforms, so I thought I'd address them and help you guys out and give you guys my 2 cents of advice. So to give you guys a little bit of background about me, my name is Yannah Jones. I am 21 years old. I study at the Fashion Institute of Technology. I just received my AES degree in fashion design. I will be returning back in August, hopefully if the pandemic clears up. I do currently live in New York right now. I'm in my first apartment in Manhattan and I'm super excited. Okay, so let's get started. First question is, what do you need to get into fashion school? Well, I guess it depends on all of the different schools that you're applying, but for the most part, you're definitely going to need a portfolio. For F.I.T specifically, the school that I went to, I know that you needed a mix and match, which was like 2 looks interchanging the same pieces, and then there were 4 illustrations and 2 to 3 sewn garments, I'm pretty sure. But each school is going to require a portfolio, so you do need a little bit of background knowledge in terms of drawing and sewing and just developing concepts all around. Next question is how to start and what to put into a portfolio. So I would recommend definitely starting to create concepts and learning what that is. So basically that's choosing a theme and really centering around one niche aspect of it and figuring out what your theme would entail in terms of color, textures, fabrics, and the story that you're trying to tell. Once you are starting to develop that concept, you really want to dive into inspiration that you're getting from it. So you can look for runway inspiration, real world inspiration. Some people look into books and etc. Just like any sort of media that you can find. And anything that comes out of your head, just put it in a sketchbook. And that's how you first start developing your portfolio. So once you do have all of your journal aspects ready, that's when you start sketching and doing thumbnails and etc. And then you move into the final process after you have your ideas set. Okay, so next question. What are some starter materials for fashion design? So starter materials, I definitely would recommend to have a ruler. You should have a pair of fabric scissors, a good pencil, a couple of good flesh tone markers, as well as markers for clothing rendering, some colored pencils, outlining markers, just a nice pad of tracing paper and marker paper. Those are what you're going to use for sketching. For sewing, I recommend your fabric scissors, a good pair of rulers. I recommend pattern weights just to keep your fabric down, your patterns down. Cheap fabric to just practice on, muslin, black and white thread, and also having some hand sewing needles. I definitely don't think that you need a mannequin right off the bat. Draping skills are something that you develop after you start learning basic construction. So you definitely can start off with just following patterns that you find online, learning how to sew proper seams, how to press everything properly so everything comes out nice and neat, and you can go from there. What can you do in high school to better your chances of getting into fashion design? Personally, I didn't have like a home ec department in my high school that helped me with all these things. So I learned how to sew all on my own. I learned through YouTube and just through like word of mouth from people that knew how to sew. And I did everything kind of on my own. I did a lot of outreach, so I worked for different community service programs that were sewing for different causes. So that's how I started in terms of sewing. As for drawing, definitely take any art classes that you can. Life drawing helps a lot to learn about like the human anatomy and such. Otherwise, that's again at your own research, really. If you're fortunate to have fashion classes in your high school, that's great. But definitely look up and learn about other designers. Just really saturate yourself with the media in vintage pieces, different editorial pieces, what's happening right now in the fashion world, and kind of emulate a little bit and learn how to analyze pieces and garments. Really just understand fashion vocabulary, read your books, and learn how to speak like a fashion person. Just really get used to textile language and styles that you can create. Something as simple from like a neckline shape to a sleeve style is something that's really gonna make or break whether people think that you know what you're talking about or not. How did I get into making clothing and where did I start? I actually, since I was born in Dominican Republic, I had this friend of my grandma's that was a seamstress, and I would love going into her shop, and she would always be sewing, and she had a couple of people sewing for her, and I loved just watching them use the machines, and I couldn't wait to grow up and use a machine. And later on, I watched things like Project Runway, Say Yes to the Dress, and I was just always very fascinated about clothing in general. So I started out drawing. I did not really have that much experience with sewing. My parents got me a sewing machine for Christmas. Santa got me a sewing machine under the Christmas tree. And from there, I then started to make things like pencil cases, pillowcases, things that were just straight lined stitches and were very simple to make. Didn't require like hemming or anything like that. That was like complicated. I didn't really create my own pieces until around high school. I really tried to hone in on trying to create tops and different skirts, things that were very basic. And then from there, I took a pre-college class at F.I.T, and that's where I really started to learn how to do construction of garments. I learned how to create an apron, pants, tops, shorts, pajamas. It only gave me the starter guidelines, ideas of how to start designing, but it also gave me inspiration and more confidence now that I knew how to properly work a machine. And from that year, I just started sewing nonstop. So I would say that was around when I was 16 or 17 that I started taking it very seriously. Okay, so the next question is what I did to study at F.I.T. So like I said before, I really just kind of had a lot of different experiences of exposing myself through the media. I was always that kid online, and I loved focusing on trying to find new fashion ventures to look through on YouTube and just learn different concepts. And I watched fashion shows and learned about different designers that inspired me at the time and tried to keep up with the trends. So here's the catch. I actually ended up transferring to F.I.T. So I wasn't there for my first semester of college. I actually did not get in. I really think it was because of my poor time management skills. I submitted it like a couple hours before the portfolio was due. So I'm sure that the actual program was full by then, which is totally my fault. But I did transfer to F.I.T, and it was just a lot of hard work and focus and fixing my time management skills after that. So yeah, that's what I did. I really can't tell you anything specific that made my portfolio stand out. I feel like it was very standard. I can actually do a video on my portfolio if you guys would like. Okay, so the next question is advice when you get into fashion school. So once you get into fashion school, everything is very overwhelming, and you are going to be just completely astonished by like all that's going on. There's going to be a lot of people who look like they have their life together right away. There's going to be people from ages like 17 to like 65. It's something that you definitely have to just brace yourself for, that you're going to find absolutely anyone and everyone on campus, at least at F.I.T. I feel like I took a very analytical approach to when I started meeting a lot of my classmates and just getting to know everyone, seeing how everyone was, their mannerisms, what were like the norms of everything. You just stay focused. It can be very easy to get sidetracked, especially if you're not from New York, you're not from Manhattan. It's very easy to just get lost in like all of the new stuff that you're now experiencing. I think that one of the things I struggled with the most was my time management, like I said, with homework, because it is very fast-paced and there are a lot of demands that you have as a fashion design student. Once you start classes, it's like right away you have a new assignment, you have a new project, and you're expected to hand it in right away. Everything is nicely pressed, nicely presented. Your projects are who you are, and if you show that you have a lack of effort or you will have a lack of professionalism, your professors are not going to like that, and they're going to take that the wrong way. Whatever you choose to present yourself as, that's all in you. But I just personally learned that professors tend to not really take that lightly. Okay, so next question, my feelings on applying to F.I.T and what was it like? Applying to F.I.T was very difficult. A lot of my friends were applying with essays and supplements and all of these just like demographic criteria and stuff, and I had to do all of that with all the 10 schools that I applied to. But then on top of that, I had my portfolio, and a lot of people just didn't quite understand what it's like to apply to a fashion school or art school in general. So a lot of people didn't think that my studies were going to be that rigorous or serious because it seems fun. But I definitely spent a lot of time stressing over applications. I took a whole chunk out of my senior year in high school. Didn't really enjoy it. I don't think applications are fun for anyone, but it was just a lot of pressure that I added on to myself, and I felt like it was the end of the world because for me, at least in the end of high school, college was the next big goal that I had to achieve and to get to my dream school that I was waiting for since like 4th grade. And I did get very disappointed when I didn't get into that one, especially considering that I got into every other school but FIT. But then I did transfer, and the second time around for my portfolio was actually so much smoother. Okay, so the next question I really like, it is, what is my dream and what attracts me to fashion? So, okay, I have to dress myself for this one. So my dream in fashion is honestly just to become like a big sister to everyone and to become a role model. I tend to already take that role with my little sister, and I love her so much, and I think that that's one of the biggest reasons why I am so proactive on becoming a role model for a lot of younger girls, and I really hope I'm doing that. But I want to work on female empowerment roles. I definitely want to just create designs that make people feel comfortable and happy in. I think that fashion and clothing can set the mood for the day, can set your confidence for when you're walking into a room. My dream is to be someone that you can wear and just feel great in. I want to provide a little box of happiness every time someone purchases something that I create. Like my greater goal, whatever I end up in, whether it's my own brand, a bigger brand, or who knows, I just want to make people happy and to encourage them to follow their dreams, because I feel like a lot of people are told that their dreams are invalid, and I'm here to tell you that they're not. What are good fashion colleges to look into? So this person who asked this question, it was from Arizona. I don't know that much about the West Coast in terms of other colleges besides FIDM and I think Otis College. I can tell you the schools that I applied to. I applied to SVA, Pratt, Drexel, Marist, Oneonta, FIT, SCAD. I'm forgetting the last 3. Definitely think the East Coast has a really high selection, especially in New York, just because New York is a fashion capital. I don't necessarily think that you do have to move all the way to New York, but it's definitely a place that you can have higher chances of getting internships or a job right after college, which is, you know, very subjective to who you are and how you present yourself. There are options. It just depends on what you do, especially in a world where now everything's online. I would definitely just look into what you're really seeking out of it and go from there. Okay, so the next question is, what are some tips to make your own website? So fun fact, I have my own website. I've had it for a couple of years now. I've created it about 2 years ago or so on this website called portfoliobox.net, and I'm actually sponsored by them. Definitely check them out. You can use the code Yannah50 to gain 50% off of your subscription to Portfolio Box to create your own website if you'd like. It was pretty easy using this platform. It's pretty accessible, and I definitely recommend just taking pictures of all of your artwork, whether it is in a casual setting or not, or, you know, have them professionally photographed. You should take the time out to capture all of your pieces, whether it's through video, through pictures, editing them or not, and just have them in one place. Just kind of lay it out. First, you have to think of what aesthetic you kind of like abide by, what you mainly concentrate on in your themes. Then you kind of want to think of color palette, fonts, and what you really want to exemplify in this portfolio. And definitely keep an about me page, a contact page. Whether you don't have professional pictures or not, that doesn't matter. I started out with Snapchats on that website, and I had random pictures from classwork that just didn't look that neat. Now I fixed everything up and I have everything nicely cleaned and laid out nicely, photoshopped but that was after a couple of years of having that website, and you can always spruce it up. Okay, so I had a couple questions in my DMs about sewing tips, art tips, so I'm going to move into a different category of questions now that were specific to that. So the first question for this category is, should you know how to sew and design before college? Yes, because this is different than applying to a regular college where you usually learn about your classes and about your topic at school. As we're in art school, you're expected to have a little bit of a background in terms of just basic knowledge. At least they're not going to teach you everything. You're supposed to know how to create your portfolio that goes along with your application process, and that is a major part for your application process. So whether it is a couple of basic stitches, hand sewing, machine sewing, how to just do some basic drawings, whether it's not the actual fashion croquis, but you do understand anatomy and just construction to a basic extent, that's enough. I get frustrated very easily with myself if I don't end up executing something very perfectly. I will do something over and over and over until I have it perfect, and I don't really give up that easily. I'm very stubborn. So I tend to do a lot of adjustments and just fixing things and erasing, starting over even. It was hard. It was definitely a journey within like at least the past 10 years to get to like where I am now, but that's definitely going to help you just improve. I Googled everything. I kind of had an approach where I was always going to do it wrong. So if I didn't look it up and I didn't do my research, I knew it was going to come out wrong. So I just completely just stopped and I did my research on everything, looked it up, made sure to just take notes. I basically took fashion classes on my own, taught myself as a child, and held myself to that standard at a very young age. Just slowly built up to the detail work that I have now and the skill that I have now. Definitely wouldn't say that I'm a master at anything just yet, but I think I definitely mastered what I was learning when I first started. Okay, so the next question is how to get into fashion and how to get inspired. So I get this question a lot, and personally, I get inspired from literally anything. I love looking at different textures and looking at different pictures of things. I really just focus on things that just look good. Whether it's something shiny, something ruffly, something that just feels different, looks different, out of the ordinary. I take things apart and analyze them, and that's where I find my inspiration personally. In terms of a general how to find inspiration and get creative, go on Pinterest, go on things like We Hearted, just Google things, Instagram, save every pretty picture you see, take pretty pictures out in nature. Definitely recommend watching movies. Fashion and movies go hand in hand. They fully correlate to the real world. Even if it's not a fashion movie, you'll find something. Look at something and think, how can I make that better? Once you find that answer, that's how you're gonna roll with it. Okay, so that was the last question that I have. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me in the comments below, or you can send me a DM on my Instagram or on my TikTok, and feel free to reach out to me just to say hi or anything. Thank you guys for all the recent support that I've been getting. This is kind of crazy, just like making a video where people like actually are asking me questions about things, but I look forward to making some videos sometime soon. Please subscribe. I'll definitely be trying to make new content and just be there for you guys. So thank you, and hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day or night or whatever, and I'll talk to you guys soon.